Cool.
Mhm.
So this is a live stream. I'll just quickly introduce it for anybody who might listen to it now or later. What's happening? So, America, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
absolutely fine.
So America and I, we had a few lines of conversation on a WhatsApp chat, and America said, "Let's do this experiment." Where Mirko is a convert to Islam. I'm born Muslim, and well, I was just very interested in maybe starting a series where that would help new converts, especially English-speaking Westerners, you might call it, because you can't cater for everybody, and I'm just gonna learn, I think. So
Mhm.
Mirko, this is kind of your idea. Just tell me like a thing that might be useful as a convert to discuss, and hopefully we'll get other converts eventually. So go for it.
I think, in relation to it's difficult somehow, when you take this issue from the point of view of someone who's not a convert. Of course, it's a completely different situation for how I experience it. But I think that there might be already from the start certain challenges, right, for converts, especially because okay, you take the step of conversion to Islam, fine. What's next? And then, of course, there is some effort you have to put into changing your lifestyle because, of course, there are many things that are supposed to change. And this is perhaps the first step that might be challenging. And I think that it is important to support converts when they're taking these first steps.
Absolutely.
They get somehow guidance specifically in relation to this, just little by little. Because, for example, I mean, my experience, of course, if I think about how I experienced it, there were already, the very first challenges when I had already started. And one of the first things I remember was, for example, not shaking hands with women. I was very used to it. And I mean, I'm from Italy. It means that, I mean, we are very physical, we are very dramatic, that.
Yeah.
So we tend to be very physical also when we meet each other, like
Yeah.
hugs and kisses on both cheeks. This is basically typical.
Just to make this a bit interesting, so my wife's Jordanian Arab, and when I went there, I thought they were just like Italians on the movies. Like they talk like this, and they kiss each other on the cheeks, and they're really emotional, and they don't hide that about themselves. They're like, we don't stay calm, kind of thing, right? So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in, and
No,
all
no,
the
it's
food.
okay. It's absolutely fine. I
The
mean,
food, the Mediterranean food, and everything, and you get that in
exactly.
Jordan. But anyway,
That's
yeah,
that's
carry on.
part of the
Sorry.
culture. Even if there are different countries here and there,
Yeah.
but it's somehow part of us. And that was kind of problematic because I was like, okay, now I have to stop doing that. For example, this is kind of challenging, especially because when you start, I don't know if this is something that resonates with all converts, but sometimes when you try to take the first steps and basically some issues come up. So perhaps it happens that even if you are supposed to do something, you don't do it, like because based on certain circumstances, I mean, you're still vulnerable, right? In that sense, because you're not strong on your position. So it's kind of a transition period. Um, Sometimes it sounds like a failure if you don't manage to do it. And, my experience was like this, more or less.
So,
Um,
do you feel that you're a failure, or other people make you feel like you're a failure?
my experience, of course, if I think about it, if when I tried anyway to take those steps and it didn't happen, then I felt like, okay, I failed in this. So it's kind of like a negative reaction to that, and this is something that might happen with converts. I wouldn't say all, because we are all different. So there might be someone who's more like resilient and says, oh, okay, it didn't happen. Let's move on. Let's try anyway. Let's try better next time. But there might be other people who, like me, for example, who tend to see it somehow, from the negative side. And it's kind of a mechanism in that sense. So, okay, it didn't happen, so I failed in this, and it makes you feel kind of bad. It might definitely happen. Like, for example, about this issue, it took a lot of time. But the thing is, now that the issue is basically, removed based on the fact that, there is the pandemic, so we are not supposed to touch each other. And the issue is somehow solved, even if it's not.
How long have you been a convert for?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
3 years
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah.
So this is one of the issues that might have been kind of problematic. So I think these first steps, changing the lifestyle, is a delicate point. If it happens that you don't manage to reach what you want to reach, especially because as a convert you want to reach already a certain type of standard, while it is not so easy, of course. So this is something that has to be
I feel like, there's there's personal development, right? And everybody tries to, whether you're Muslim or, it doesn't matter who you are, right? But then it seems like the way you're expressing it, when you become a Muslim, because there are very clearly defined things, stages of that personal development, it's really obvious when you go, oh, I failed on that. Before it was all wishy-washy and things like that. And so maybe it just becomes more in your face to yourself before you could be more easy. And maybe there's an adaptation, like now that things are like made more concrete, as it were. You have to be, it becomes more obvious, but you have to be a bit easier on yourself, because I don't know, do you know what I mean? You can't, before in the past when it wasn't clear, you just let yourself off, but now it's like in your face. You kind of have to be a bit easier on yourself as well, because it's so clear. I don't know, I'm not making myself,
exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. And this also depends on multiple factors, I would say, because I think this also comes somehow from my past, in the sense, like from a religious perspective. And this is, for example, another issue that needs probably to be discussed, because there are certain challenges that convert might overtly face, like this one, for example, not shaking hands with women as a Muslim. But there might be also kind of like unseen issues. I mean, you're not aware of that as a convert either until a certain point where you are aware of that. And that happened to me as well. And it's, related to this issue of, the negative side of religion. Like, for example, it took me, I think, 2 years, something like this, to be aware, that I was moving, into, like, through the way of Islam, with the categories of Christianity from a moral perspective.
With the what?
With the categories of Christianity from a moral perspective. It's kind of...
okay, so I'm trying to understand. So you've basically, in terms of moral rules, you've taken on Christian ideas. Those are your core, as it were.
Not specifically, certain rules, but just in abstract. How am I supposed to behave morally? That would be the question.
Which doesn't sound like a bad thing. Like, be honest, be kind to your neighbors. It's like very common things.
Yes, but there is also, a negative side, that like I became aware of, because the thing is, okay, when I was a Christian, and this is why, like the previous mindset that you have might have an influence on you. My behavior as a Christian, and I think of many other Christians, I found this really in many people while thinking about it. You tend to remain in your position, like you have to remain as you are. But if you make a mistake, then you resort to the sacrament of confession, and then you come back exactly to the same point. This is kind of problematic, because religion should help you into developing virtue, right? Into becoming a better person, which means that there must be some sort of progress. But where is the progress if you always remain in the same position, and what you're trying to do is just remaining there without, just by avoiding to commit sin.
Hmm.
This is kind of weird, and with time, after 2 years, I understood somehow that um, I was doing exactly the same thing as a Muslim. That's
How,
how I
I'm
did
just
it.
interested, how were you doing that? Because obviously you're not confessing to, probably not
No,
confessing to
of course
anybody.
not. Of course
So
not.
it might have been by, you might be saying to your mum, "I'm sorry, mum, I just did this really bad thing." I don't know if instead
No,
of
no,
a
no, no, no.
priest,
It's not in relation
but
to
like,
this. I
so I'm
mean,
trying to interested how that kind of transferred to when you became a Muslim. Like, how, what do you mean? Like, you weren't confessing to literally to somebody. Did you feel that you're returning to the
no,
same
no, no,
point?
no.
What was happening?
The issue is not specifically, the act of confessing. The issue
Oh,
is remaining in your position.
yes, I was
That
wondering
was the
how did that manifest itself? Like, you did something wrong, like every human does, and then why did you feel that you end up coming back to the same position?
like basically, okay, there is the concept, of course, of asking for forgiveness to God Almighty. So, like, I try to move, into that mindset. Okay, I want to, become better, of course, but at the same time, I still didn't feel so pushed to become a better person, simply because I was
Interesting.
influenced by the previous mindset that I
It was
had.
like you were confessing to God, let's say,
Kind of.
but then you thought that was the end of the story.
Yes.
You confessed your sin to God, as it were.
To some extent, at first, yes, it was somehow like that. But at a certain point, it occurred to me that I started reading one of the books of the second Khalifa community, and at a certain point, he mentioned certain interpretations of Islam that are given in relation to these moral issues, and there are some interpretations of Islam. He mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Imam al-Ghazali, where he exactly saw, this negative side of religion, in the sense that, you remain in your position, you don't develop virtue, you only focus on avoiding sin. That's it. So
Hmm.
that is
I
kind of problematic, of
If you
course.
can, I mean, if anybody can, I don't know if that, maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but if you can avoid sin, that's pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, but it's somehow a perfectionist vision at the point of
It's
religion.
not realistic
Because you're
somehow.
not changing your personality, you're just avoiding, sin. But of course, at a certain point, I mean, we're human beings, it will happen
Yeah.
at a certain point. But then, you don't take the step forward of doing something more, doing something new, in order to become a virtuous person. You always remain in the same position because you are focused on avoiding sin without changing anything in yourself.
So you're not
That's the issue.
focusing on the positive, you're just avoiding the negative.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's the
Interesting.
thing. And
Yeah.
I think that the previous mindset that one has related to religion or other contexts, it might have an impact in that sense.
Hmm.
And from a Christian background, I think this is something that might definitely happen. Because there is this kind of trend thinking that you're not supposed to change. You can be whatever you are. You
That's
just have to
fascinating.
avoid
That
sin.
sounds so much like what I look at as what modern day Western spirituality. It's this idea that you get, these placards, they say things like,
Hmm.
you should be loved for who you are. And there's this whole sense of you don't have to change.
Hmm.
And maybe that kind of idea that you're talking about that come from
Hmm.
this a version. I like to say a version of Christianity, because obviously as Muslims we believe in the original version of
Hmm.
Christianity, which is just
Yes.
Judaism. But anyway, um, so yeah, there's this idea that you don't have to work on yourself, you don't have to improve yourself, you don't have to follow any laws.
Hmm.
You just somehow try to leave out sin by just confessing it or something. Yeah. So I suppose I
Or
can.
something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
perhaps, yeah. I'm not sure how it is possible to explain it, but I wasn't aware of this, I think, until that point when I started reading the book. So I tended to remain exactly in the same position. What I tried to do was just avoiding sin,
Hmm.
avoiding, to commit mistakes. But this is not the point of
Hmm.
of religion. And sometimes, that's why I'm saying there might be something converts are not even aware of, because perhaps they follow a certain type of mindset and they apply it also when living as a Muslim. So
Hmm.
I think it can definitely happen.
So one thing
Um,
I wanted to tell you was just a quick, like, few minutes of a positive experience that I had in here in the UK. So you're in Iceland, just
mhm,
for the viewers.
mhm,
Um, that there was the lady. So we're Ahmadiyya Muslims. We're just the rejuvenation of Islam. If people don't know what that is, what Ahmadiyya is. Um, and in the ladies organization we have called the Lajna,
mhm,
you've heard of that. They had this really nice program where every month they would get the converts together in the local area and just pick a topic and discuss it. And then they would bring their friends who are not Muslim or Ahmadi
mhm,
Muslims, whatever you want to call it, and then slowly they would convert to Islam just by
mhm,
listening into the conversation. So that's one of the reasons, just to give you an idea, because we don't know each other that well and whatever,
mhm,
that I can see this sort of very casual thing being
mhm,
really useful somehow, because it has been useful in the past,
mhm.
if done consistently. There's an Islamic principle: always do things consistently. Don't know if you've heard that one, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, so I want to learn mostly from you, but I just wanted to share that. That's why I'm a little bit
Yeah, this
excited.
is
I'm
just kind of
excited about this.
brainstorming also. I mean, because, if you talk to someone else, he will probably come up with other issues that he or she faced. So,
Yeah.
these are just, some examples, but I think that, you know, um, one should be exactly, aware of what the challenges are, so
Mm,
that one can also, help and support, other converts. First of all, because at that point you feel less alone, because sometimes there is, you know the thought that, okay, this is happening to me, I don't know, perhaps, the others are doing much better, typical of me, I say it, I think somehow like that.
yeah.
It's
It's
kind of
good
a
to be.
mechanism.
It's kind of nice to be competitive about being good, right? So that's not such a bad thing. And
Yes,
it's
yes,
an Islamic, actually, a verse of the Quran actually
mhm,
says,
yeah,
compete in doing good things. So not so
mhm,
bad.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The only issue might be, comparing oneself to other people,
Mm,
in that sense. Okay, so I didn't reach that standard, but of course we are
mm,
all at different stages. So
mm,
that might be kind of, a mechanism that can come up into one's
hmm.
mind. I mean, into the mind of a convert. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That you try to, you look up, other members of the community, also who are very active, for example, let's say, and they're very prominent. So if you're like, okay, yeah, I should probably try to reach that standard, but I haven't reached it yet.
Mm,
So yeah, so sometimes it might kind of, it might be to some extent a little bit discouraging, but of course this is just an absurd discourse, because we are all at different stages, so there is no need to compare oneself to other people, but it's kind of a mechanism that one has to get rid of.
yeah.
It happens to me.
And that's always something we do, even before, if you're not Muslim or whatever, we are very harsh on ourselves sometimes, in
Mhm,
materialistic things, or why does that person have more than us? And so what comes to mind? I mean, there's two things that come to mind about what you're saying.
mhm,
Um, about this thing about being harsh on yourself. There's a lovely hadith that your wife has a right upon you, you're this person, and there's one at the end, it says yourself has a right upon you, which is
mhm,
maybe a strange. I don't know if you've heard that one. You're saying nodding, so it sounds like you have. I at first I think it seems odd to refer to yourself as a sort of a third person. Yourself has a right upon you, but I think it's beautiful, because like how we treat other people nicely, more nicely than we do ourselves. So if
Hmm.
you see yourself as just another person in the community, like you're being, like right now you're being maybe harsh on yourself, like why haven't you reached this stage 100? You may be on stage 16, but you're going to jump to 100. But then
Hmm.
if anybody else did that to themselves, you say, hang on a minute, you're on 16, aim for 17. That would be sensible. Just be
Hmm.
kind to yourself. And
Yeah.
then you say that, then you turn around and you say it to yourself. That's the idea of, I think,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beauty of,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know?
It's difficult, the difficult thing is coming out of that kind of mindset, because it's some sort of mechanism that you know that can come up into
Yeah.
some mind.
And we're
It's
all
difficult
human, so
to
even
think
if
like
we give the, yeah, we're all human, so even if we give you this logic,
that. Hmm.
you'll stick to it for a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think part of the benefit of this chat, or this kind of chat, if there were more converts and things like that, is not just about the facts, it's about just the support. And also, there are very few Western converts, and you are going to feel alone. And it's maybe nice to see other
Hmm.
convert faces, just talk about things so you don't feel alone, and you
Hmm.
feel some sort of strength in that.
Hmm. Yeah, especially
Yeah,
now. I mean, considering this time. I mean, with this pandemic, I mean, people tend to feel, more lonely, and this happened here in Iceland as well. I mean, Alhamdulillah, we are kind of like slowly, getting rid of the last cases, but there is still something. But yeah, I mean, for a certain amount of time, I mean, I don't know, for some months, I've spent a lot of time alone. I'm a teacher, and I had to switch
yeah,
to online teaching, so I was like almost the entire day at home,
yeah.
um, teaching and preparing assignments and this and that. It was like
I'm a school teacher as well, but I'm a school teacher as well, but I kind of moving towards private tuition and other things. But yeah,
uh-huh. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's
Mhm.
just nice to mention that. What do you teach?
I teach Icelandic for foreigners and linguistics.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I teach maths and programming, but I would like to say I teach happiness through spirituality in my other show, which is Islam anyway. But yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, you're doing it anyway here also, so yeah, on the stream. So
cool,
you're doing it.
Jazakallah.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, the other thing I was thinking about, this
Hmm.
idea. I mean, I'm just sharing thoughts. I'll throw in things every now and then.
Hmm.
Um, the idea of not, focusing on just staying away from sin, but not improving yourself. But the fundamental of Islam is believe in God and do good works.
Hmm.
So, like, I'm just thinking, like, if it was in the other show and somebody said, say they were a new convert and they said, I have this problem, I just can't, I don't know what the question would be actually, but it would be something like, I feel like I'm not moving forward, I'm just staying away from sin. And then
Possible,
I,
yeah, possible comment on that. Yes, yes.
yeah, and then the answer would be something along the lines of, you got to believe, but you got to put your belief in action by actually taking positive actions, which is good works to support you, to prove to yourself that you believe,
Hmm.
not just empty words. Okay.
First of all, I think, like, in that case, a convert should also understand, and that would be my case as well. We are not alone in this. I mean, I'm not alone in this situation. I think this happens not only to converts, but also, people who, were born in a Muslim
Yeah.
family. So there might be struggles even there. So
Definitely. You do mean might. You think?
yeah. So one has to understand. I mean, we have
Yeah.
to understand really, okay, we are not alone in this. It happens to
Yes.
us, but it happens to other people as well.
I was
With
going to say, like,
degrees.
you were describing yourself in a transition phase
Hmm.
where there is no, we're always in a transition phase until we're, you know, maybe free from sins, like, but who is very few people are. We're always working on ourselves.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, wherever you are. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, um, like during these 3 years, I thought, okay, I mean, there should be some milestone, at a certain point. But of course, it's not a matter of time. It's just a matter of, slow progress. And perhaps one is not even aware of that, because if it is kind of like, a lifelong transition, if it is a lifelong transition, then it's difficult to see the change, because if it is little by little.
That's interesting. For me, this is my way of looking at it. Um, yes, it's a lifelong transition, but there are lots of very important dots or things we're trying to meet. My thing is being nice. Sounds really weird, but this is honestly my thing. Really trying to be nice to people when they're saying silly things. I'm a teacher, so I can do that a lot of the time with students. But when I'm being told that by some superior or important person, I'm like, okay. So this is my thing. This is one of my challenges. And there's many millions of challenges in between.
Yeah.
So I don't think I just think there are very clear challenges that we can set ourselves.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And this is also another important point, now that you mention it, the vulnerability in people, like the new generations. I mean, I think I'm, in that generation where basically, there were already many changes to the point that, like we have become more fragile. That
Let me just close the door a little bit so you can probably hear the baby. 1 second.
no issue.
So you get less of the baby noise. Okay.
It's okay, no worries.
Yeah.
We are more fragile as a generation, like more than the one that preceded us. So we might be more vulnerable to, people's judgment. We might be, especially, as newcomers, that would be, the turning point, because there, you also are surrounded, especially if you live in a Western society, you see that other people follow different lifestyles. So now you feel kind of like different from them, and you are kind of more vulnerable to other people's judgment. And fragility can have some sort of impact as well on the person. So this is also kind of problematic, I would say, for a potential, like, for a convert, let's say, just of, I don't know, I wouldn't say average, but I imagine this,
You can just talk about for yourself, isn't it? At the end of the
Yeah,
day, it's hard to generalize for everybody, but if you feel it, that's important.
yeah,
Like if you feel fragile for whatever reason,
yeah,
that's important. That's
yeah,
why this kind of conversation could be really useful.
yeah.
So I'm trying to
Especially,
wind.
yeah,
Go
sorry.
on, say. Go. No,
No,
no.
no,
I
no.
want you. Go on. No, no.
No, because I was thinking, like especially our generation has, lived, experienced the impact of, internet, social media. This had a huge impact on our generation and the next ones as well, because we tend to care about the people's judgment, because we see that, like, for example, like on social media, like negative comments, reactions to negative comments, people who, like, deep down feel bad about what they receive from other people. So this is something that really we need, to think of, especially when we are dealing with the newer generation. Let's say, there is someone who converts to Islam. That would be especially difficult for the newer generations. Yes, I would say, because the mindset they grew up with, and also the major influence of social media can have an impact on,
So they
how much
all.
they care about people's judgment.
And so as a Muslim, you might, from your parent, because you've grown a beard or whatever, or even by what people know of you, they find out that you're a Muslim. You stand out, and then people will judge you and you feel sensitive to that. Is that what you're saying?
Emotionally, yes, it might kind of affect me. Yes,
Yeah. I think that's normal for a human being, wouldn't it be?
yes,
With
absolutely,
a,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely, yes. But I would say that there is kind of a difference, between generations. I mean, if I think about my parents' generation, they think less, I would say, about people's judgment
How old are you?
towards themselves. Yes,
How old are you? I'm just
32. 32.
32. Okay, I'm 40. I'm just trying to think how, yeah, because you would have been more connected to social media than I would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
was in,
use
in,
it.
in the
Yeah.
generation in between, basically, because in Italy, I remember we started using internet. When was it? The year 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
And then social media after that. So this had to some extent some impact on us, so let alone the next generation.
Yeah. It's true. Okay. So what I'm trying to do, because I like to keep to my word and keep to 30 minutes, which is already gone, but
Mhm.
1 or 2 minutes. How, I mean, we can discuss this on WhatsApp, but like, to what extent is this kind of program
Mhm.
necessary, and to what extent could it fit into the other program or not at all? With the other program, for other people listening, is just like a Q&A where people can ask anything they want. We have a topic just to give a title to the show, sort of thing.
Mhm.
But so what are your thoughts about that? What are your pros and cons? I'm very open to ideas.
Well, honestly, I think that the groups you want to, like, let's say, target, basically, both converts and also other people who are not Muslims. I think they have different kind of interests, and perhaps would like to discuss two different kinds of topics, even if there might be kind of something in common. There might be kind of an intersection, because at the end of the day, based on the things that we have discussed even now, there are certain things that might be common also with people who are not Muslims, like challenges that they also face in their lives. Like, so to some extent, it might be also okay for non-Muslims to listen to this kind of conversations. But at the same time, I think that they would also like to be more focused on some other, some more general topics. And on the other hand, converts perhaps wouldn't be so focused on issues that might be more general, like for people who are non-Muslims, like, for example, belief in God. Okay, I mean, a Muslim would believe in God, so there would be a topic that probably, there wouldn't be any need to discuss for a convert. There might be other certain types of issues that would need to be discussed. So you see, there are different topics, that are basically not suitable for the other group, but at the same time, there might be something in between related to just daily challenges, in life. That would be probably the common topic between.
Yes, I can see what you're saying. I agree that this kind of show is necessary then, because just because there's an intersection doesn't mean you just focus on the intersection. The rest of the people will
Exactly,
be
and you don't
bored.
cover the other things, so they would be kind of
Yeah.
problematic as well if you focus on the intersection only. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you have both kind of programs in the same channel, let's say, I mean, it would benefit people anyway, whatever they
Yeah.
try to watch, from both sides, right? And at the same time, you create a difference between the two types of programs at the same time. So if
So me personally, I'm very happy to continue this.
Mhm.
But I hate putting people on the spot. I kind of have this personality I've kind of mentioned in the WhatsApp that I will
Mhm.
jump into things, and I don't think everybody's as gun ho as I am. So I don't want to ask you on the spot, but think about it. I'm thinking once a month or something like that. But I will
Mhm.
stop talking about it on the WhatsApp. Think about it. Don't tell me today, maybe another day when you had some time
Yeah.
and you looked at your schedule.
Mhm.
But the main thing is, I really enjoyed just talking to you.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Last thing, I think it will also be good to involve other converts into this. It's good to hear
Yeah,
more voices in relation to this.
yeah.
So
I'm not even a convert, so
exactly.
we
So it's
need
good to
more.
hear also other
Yeah,
voices.
yeah.
I guarantee
Yeah.
you that there are, many other converts who perhaps, would talk about other kind of examples. Perhaps they might, tackle the issue from a different perspective, compared to mine. So it will enrich also, people's knowledge and also converts' knowledge about what the challenges are, and perhaps also what one should do in relation to these issues, right?
Yeah.
So it will also be helpful for people who are facing the same
Yeah.
challenges.
So I think somehow it helps if a convert encourages another convert, or a
Hmm.
friend, even not even a Muslim. But we stick with converts at the moment, just to get the ball rolling. So yeah, if you ask somebody, but anyway, we'll do that on the WhatsApp,
Yep.
because I hate breaking my promise, and I've broken it by 5 minutes. So, all right. So lovely talking to you, and
Same here.
assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.